Hi folks, and welcome to the Meaningful Money podcast. This is season 16, episode 1. This is the podcast dedicated to helping you put your finances in order. My name is Pete Matthew, and I'm going to share with you everything you need to know and everything you need to do to secure your financial future. I'm here to help you make sense of money. Here we are once again, brand new season of the Meaningful Money podcast. Really excited to get going with this. And this season is going to be all about the run-in to retirement after a life of building wealth. So today I want to ask an important question right at the start of this new season. What is retirement? So that's what we're going to be asking and hopefully answering a little bit today. After the main body of the show, as usual, I'll look at the recent review that's been left, announce what we're going to be talking about next week. But before any of that, remember, this podcast continues to be brought to you with the very kind help of my friends at 7 Investment Management. They've been helping me out here for ages. I'm so grateful to them for their continued support. So please do check out what they're up to. They're at 7im.co.uk. That's the number 7im.co.uk. Right. The title of this season is going to be The Home Straight. I think I said last week, actually, I battled a little bit about what to call it. I was going to call it The Final Approach, and I thought that sounded a bit morbid somehow. So, The Home Straight. You know, if you've ever done an athletics race of more than 100 meters, then you'll know the feeling of sort of rounding the last corner and seeing the finish line ahead of you, the home straight. The end is in sight. All the effort that you've put in has come to this, and now you've got to make a final push to finish the race well. Now, if you're nowhere near this point in your financial journey yet, I'd urge you not to switch off, okay? There's stack loads of content on MeaningfulMoney.tv, on the YouTube channel and stuff that will help you. But actually, there's quite a lot to be applied to your current efforts by learning about the end game. Indeed, knowing how things need to end can help you get into the best position to get there, and even get there perhaps earlier than you might think. So that's got to be worth listening to, right? So today I want to introduce the season a little bit, talk a little bit about what retirement isn't as well as is, quite important. So remember, notes, links from today's show, as always, they're at the show notes, and this is the only link you need to remember. Everything else is there. And the link today is meaningfulmoney.tv/HS1 for Home Straight, episode 1. meaningfulmoney.tv, little frog in the throat, meaningfulmoney.tv/HS1. Let's have a look at what you need to know first. Okay, first thing you need to know is that retirement, I think, is a tarnished word to some degree. We all know that retirement used to mean kind of one day at the end of your working life where you had a handshake from the chairman after 45 years of working for the same firm. You got given a nice carriage clock and a pension which died with you, which probably was less than 5 years after that point. And for some folks, that's kind of still true, but with the benefit of longer lifespans, mercifully. But for most of us, this actually bears no resemblance to what we experience of retirement now. Most of us have had multiple jobs, maybe even multiple careers. We've likely got pots of money all over the place, which we've amassed in various roles. We'll probably live for 20, 30, maybe even 40 years after the date at which we finally give up working for a salary. All of my clients who are retired are always busy. I've never met any retired person who isn't busy. If they're not running around after grandchildren, they're volunteering at charities or community groups, going off for long weekends in the camper van or the sailing boat, or they're flying off to Nepal or Machu Picchu or something for trekking holidays. You know, they're up at 7 a.m. to go swimming in the sea. Not if you live in Tamworth, obviously, but if you live down here in Penzance, there's quite a lot of folks, retired folks, who swim at some ungodly hours of the morning. They're going bowling every hour God sends, or they're picking up new hobbies every other year and excelling at them. Generally, they're healthy and, for the most part, happy and active. Many of my clients that are at retirement age actually are not retired at all in the traditional sense. They continue to work, very often in the businesses that they've built themselves, and they're just as happy and fulfilled as they ever have been. So while retirement means different things to different people, and even though it does still occasionally conjure up images of what it used to be like, I am still going to use that word throughout this season, the word retirement. I could have opted for something nauseating like going work optional. I actually heard somebody say that recently. I had to resist the urge to do something mean to them. But, I want you to keep listening. So if I start using things like that, you probably won't. So I'll probably interchange the word retirement with financial independence, which is a phrase which is gathering momentum. But for the most part, we'll just use the word retirement to talk about the final third of life when hopefully you've amassed enough money to be able to choose what you want to do for the rest of your life. Okay, so it's a somewhat tarnished word, but we're going to use it anyway. Second thing you need to know is that retirement generally is a transition and not a hard stop. I think it's vital to understand that retirement is less of an event these days than a process. It's just not a hard stop anymore for most of us. It's a transition which often happens over many years. And I actually think that's really healthy. I don't have any sort of scientifically gathered evidence to prove this, but I've seen enough empirical evidence in quotes throughout my own life and career that suggests that working flat out one day and then stopping and doing nothing but watching daytime TV after that is generally very bad for your body and for your mind. So some people reduce their hours at work. Some do something completely different, maybe moving from executive level work or even business ownership to driving a van or stacking shelves or working at a National Trust garden or something like that. It might not even be paid work, just something to keep the mind and body active. Couples very often stagger their retirements. They don't often, well, I shouldn't say they don't often, sometimes they don't stop on the same day, right? Quite often they don't actually. And I often wonder if this is because the thought of being together 24/7 is a bit worrying. But it's also because each individual in a couple is, of course, just that, an individual. And even though they've built a life together with their partner, they still want to live their own life to some degree, and rightly so, of course. Fortunately, the financial services industry has kept up with this changing paradigm of retirement. So now you can phase benefits from your pensions in all sorts of interesting and very useful ways. The pension freedoms of 2016 have made a massive difference to the retirement planning landscape. I'm going to explore some of those with you over the next 10 weeks. I'm looking forward to that. Third thing and final thing you need to know is that retirement is very much yours to define. You got to understand, you got to really grasp that your retirement is just that. It's your retirement, nobody else's. There are absolutely no expectations being put on you by anybody else. Maybe your partner, but really it's your retirement, and there's no sort of objectively correct standard of what a retirement should look like. It's a blank canvas waiting for you to put your unique mark on it. And so what will your retirement look like, I wonder? So just some things to think about as we start to think early on in this season about everything you need to do. Okay, first thing we need to do, this is going to keep this fairly short, is to start to think about what your retirement will look like. That is your job this week. If you are in the stage of your life where retirement is looming in the near-ish future, I'm sort of hesitant to define that, but let's just say it's less than 10 years, or fewer than 10 years out, say. Then if that's you, it's well worth sitting down one evening, grabbing a receptacle of your favorite beverage and just thinking, dreaming a little bit. I'm going to help you a little bit with this next week, but for now, just sit down and think. What would a typical retirement day look like? Where will you be? What time are you going to rise, get out of bed in the morning? What are you going to eat for breakfast? Will your day be full and planned out, or will it be spontaneous? Who's going to be there with you? I'm not going to help you plan for that person not being your current partner, okay? Will you go on holiday? Or will you live somewhere which is like a full-time holiday, just like Penzance? More on that next week, but start on this sooner rather than later. Write some stuff down. Just start to think about what you might want retirement to look like, if you haven't already. But write it down. It's important not just to keep it in your head. And if you're in a couple, have that conversation. Second thing we need to do for today is to start together to gather together all your stuff. All right, so we're going to drag you back from the dreaming and the thinking to practical realities now. You're going to need to make a start gathering together all the information you've got on your various financial plans, policies, investments, pensions, bank accounts, stuff like that. Don't worry too much about organizing it yet. We're going to get to that week after next. But make a start going through the filing cabinet or those drawers stuffed full of old envelopes, those plastic boxes in the loft. Yes, it ain't going to be fun. It might take you a while, but it's better to get started than put it off. Time goes quickly, right? And before you know it, you'll be 2 years away from retirement. And you'll have a lot more work to do in a shorter time. So better to be ahead of the ball. No, on the ball, ahead of the curve, whatever metaphor you might want to use about being proactive, okay? Right, that is it for know and do this week. I said I wanted to keep it short, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about what's coming up in the rest of this season. So next week, week 2, I want to help you refine your vision of what retirement might look like by giving you some things to think about and some help for the thought process itself. Then in week 3, I want to help you get current on where you are now. Chances are, if you're in this stage of your financial life, you've accumulated all kinds of plans and policies and investments and bank accounts and all sorts of stuff. And we need to gather it together and interpret it so we can get some idea of where we are and where we're going with it all. Then in week 4, we're going to talk about positioning your pieces, by which I mean getting things in the right place to make the transition when the time comes. We'll talk about consolidating pension plans and investments, maybe, the kind of underlying investment approach you should be considering as you approach retirement. Week 5, we're going to be discussing how to align your retirement with your partner. If there are 2 of you, obviously it makes sense to complete this whole exercise together and work out what it's going to look like, how you're going to pool resources, if at all, to what extent you might do that, just to make the best of your combined wealth. Week 6, I'm going to be banging on, as I often do, about cash flow. You know by now, I'm convinced that everyone, no matter how wealthy, can be really well served with cash flow control. So I'll be helping you identify which of your expenses are required, which are desired, and showing you how that fits into the general planning that we're doing. Week 7, I'm going to be talking about phasing into retirement, maybe reducing your hours at work, how you're going to manage that financially and practically. Week 8, I'm going deep on investing for longevity, how to give your portfolio the best chance of outlasting you, not the other way around, really important. In week 9, we'll be talking about optimizing retirement and going over the many choices available to you for pensions crystallization and the other things that you're going to need to consider. And then finally, in week 10, we'll talk about making the leap, what to know and do before making the big leap into the longest holiday of your life. What? No season-ending Q&A? Well, we thought we'd sort of mix it up a little bit this season. Instead, do a couple of Facebook Live, YouTube Live Q&A sessions, specifically for this season, right? So if you're in the Facebook group, stay tuned for the announcements there. I'll obviously announce them here on the podcast too, so you've got warning. If you're not on Facebook, I'll stream the live Q&As to YouTube as well, right? You'll have the chance to send questions in advance. As always, if you're in the group, you can leave the questions on the announcement post. But if you want to just send me a question on email, then do that. We have always an email address dedicated to the season that we're in. And this season's email address, it won't surprise you, is season16 at MeaningfulMoney.tv. Season 16 at MeaningfulMoney.tv. Don't be shy. Send in your questions whenever. Get going with it. It's going to be a really good season. I'm looking forward to cracking on with it next week. Okay, so a review from R. Cozzy. This is Financial Education Made Simple. R. Cozzy says, I started listening to Pete's podcasts earlier this year. Really wish I'd discovered them years ago. As a relatively late starter to financial awareness at 43, I've already implemented a debt snowball to clear our short-term debts, introduced a budget into our lives, and examined how our pensions will provide for us in the future. These are all issues discussed by Pete in a simple to understand language, yet with important ramifications for the future. He signposts to significant others within the financial world, recommending books which I personally have found useful already. Not only that, but he's clearly passionate about his subject, and when he speaks about being intentional with money, it brings a realism to proceedings, which I found quite rare, in a world of topics such as frugalism, minimalism, and FIRE movements. That's interesting. Keep up the great work, Pete. Even as a Lancashire lad, I've no hesitation in saying you're absolutely changing lives with the lessons you're sharing. My little girl's future looks brighter already. Well, thank you very much, R. Cozzy. Really appreciate that. I'm a realist and hopefully a pragmatist, so try to make this stuff really relatable to everybody. And isn't just a sort of unattainable standard that everybody needs to aspire to, okay? We just need to meet you where you're at, and that's what I'm trying to do with this content. So thank you for recognizing that. R. Cozzy, thank you for leaving a review. If you want to do the same, meaningfulmoney.tv/iTunes. I should probably change that, because they don't even call it iTunes anymore. It's Apple Podcasts, isn't it? Anyway, I'll give that some thought, but meaningfulmoney.tv/iTunes for now. Leave me a review wherever you're listening to this. It really helps others hear about the show and to subscribe because it keeps me near the top of the rankings, which is really, really important. Usual plug for Meaningful Academy. The first phase of the Academy is open to everybody now. So if you're not at the retirement stage yet that we're talking about, but you're looking to get started with your finances, then the Financial Foundations phase of Meaningful Academy is just perfect for you. It covers everything from mindset, goal setting, setting and sticking to a budget, debt elimination, the basics of personal insurance, saving and investing. There's loads in there, video lessons, worksheets, calculators, everything you need to start your personal financial journey on the right foot. It takes you step by step and is my best thinking on what you need to do to move forward and really start things off well. So head over to meaningfulacademy.com for all the information you need about that. There's a lot more info there about what's in each module in Financial Foundations. Don't forget, as a podcast listener, you get 25% off the cost of Meaningful Academy by using the coupon code podcast25. Okay, next time I'm going to be talking about refining your vision of retirement, giving you some things to think about as you plan the next few decades. And that's it, folks, for this first session in Season 16 of the Meaningful Money Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Short and sweet. Don't know how many, what were we? Man alive, very short, actually. I think I might be looking at the wrong timer, though. Let's just have a look. 20 minutes. That's all right, isn't it? Nice, gentle lead into the new season. Hope you enjoyed it. Any questions or comments? meaningfulmoney.tv/HS1. See you next week.